Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
It's Friday!
Here we are.
And normally we're so excited that we're 50 hours from game time. This week, all I can muster is we're 50 hours from game time. However, we had a conversation before the show. We're going to tell you why this game does have some interest. It may not mean a whole lot in the standings, but there is a lot of interest in different storylines that we're going to talk about throughout the next 90 minutes here and then 30 minutes on WKYC coming up at 12:30.
It feels like the last show before the last preseason game because you're like, I can't wait for this game to be over.
Yeah,
so
you're
the real
right.
Season starts.
You're right. Just get over it.
Well, normally so many tears have been wept by this point that
That's
everyone's
true.
dehydrated.
We're cried out.
Yeah, they just want it to be over. Like this game doesn't matter for other reasons because
Yes.
you just need to bury the body once and for all. And now it's purgatory. Now we're just waiting a week.
Guys, you got to just learn to relax, man. You got to learn to just walk through the flowers and smell the aroma and do that victory lap. Look around like, look at us. 11 wins.
Yeah.
This
Going
is
for
beautiful.
12.
I'm just watching the game today.
Yeah.
Seeing what my team's going to do.
You made me feel better yesterday when you said usually by this time you're 3 mock drafts in.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Like this year. And even though we don't have a first-round draft pick anyhow, like it's
Talking
still,
about a new coach. I mean, pretty much
Right.
every offseason was
Right.
either new quarterback, new coach, new GM. At least one of those three things.
You're right.
That's
and sometimes
three.
all of them.
Yes.
That's December in Berea. This is January
That's true.
in Berea.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It really
true.
is crazy. And
Yeah.
we're here for it. I mean, we've got a lot to talk about on the show.
But Jay,
Tim
real
Couch
quick.
joins us. Go
Jay,
ahead.
quick. Sorry, is that people can say, well, act like you've been there before. Well, we've never been here before.
No.
The Browns haven't been in a situation where they're playing a meaningless game because they're in the playoffs.
Right.
In forever. So most people don't know how to act right now.
Yeah, and the more I've thought about it this week, the more I come up with the idea that this is the absolute perfect scenario. Like, if you're going to draw up a scenario for how you're going to go into the playoffs, obviously, you'd like it to be meaningless because you're the number one.
Sure.
But outside of that, it can't really get much better than this. And there's a lot of things that the Browns can accomplish this weekend. That's why I say, I know it's meaningless in terms of, positioning and seeding and all of that, but there are things that the Browns will take from what they see on Sunday, and they'll use that moving forward into the playoff game. Tim Couch is here. Jim Schwartz saying yesterday that he's not done being a head coach. He wants to do that again. Oddly enough, he was not voted as one of the top 5 defensive coordinators by his own players. This was a vote where the players could only vote on their coordinators. They rated them 1 to 10. And I'm kind of surprised. I thought they love him. It seems like they do. I thought that he would have got the most flowers from his own guys, but it didn't work out that way. We'll talk about that, maybe try to figure out why it didn't happen that way. And also, who are we most excited to watch Sunday in these backup roles for guys that could be big contributors moving forward in the playoffs? All of that straight ahead. Again, 90 minutes here, 30 minutes on WKYC. But right now, it's time for our first hello and good morning of the day to Mikey McNuggets.
What's up, guys? I'm
How are you,
excited
brother?
to see how this show goes down because our pre-show meeting was one of the feistier pre-show meetings we've had in a long time.
Yeah, Bull was a little cantankerous about many of
I
our
like
topics.
that word. Cantankerous is very accurate.
I
to how
love that
Bull
word,
described.
cantankerous.
Is that an accurate
appropriate.
description? Did you wake up on the wrong side
No,
of the bed?
it wasn't that I actually wasn't cantankerous. I just love that word. I just think the idea of expectations for Jeff Driskel just sounded very funny to me.
I know. So what happened was Mikey's going over the topics. He sends them out the night before. We all digest them and then just make sure there's no changes. He goes over the call sheet in the morning call. And when Mikey was just doing his job, he's like, okay, and then we're going to talk about expectations for Jeff Driskel. And Bull's like,
Hated it.
who the F has any expectations for Jeff Driskel? Why are we talking about this?
He was in the background like, hate.
It was a belly
Hate,
laugh.
hate,
It was a
hate.
deep, like, Bull slouching his chin
Yeah.
belly laugh, too. And I appreciate Jay and I appreciate Jason and even you, G, for having my back there.
Yeah, we all said it. You're really strong on it, and I am too.
I think
that
absolutely.
This does mean something.
It does. I agree. be.
But how do you gauge what we expect him to do?
Expecting for Jeff. Most of our fans probably never heard of Jeff Driskel before a week ago.
Oddly enough, this is the third different quarterback that we've asked that question about this year.
Yes.
We asked it about Phillip. I mean, we knew nothing about what PJ was going to bring to the party.
Yeah.
So we asked it about him. We asked it about Flacco. I don't think we did about DTR. But
We actually did with DTR because we learned, like,
So it's the
we
fourth
learned
time.
2 seconds before the TV show started that Watson was out that Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So remember, we just had a pivot, and our topic was we'd never seen him play. Only
I think we
preseason to
probably
go
did
off
it
of.
5 times because we didn't know what to expect from Watson at the start
You're
of the
probably
season
right.
either.
That's
You're
actually
probably
true.
done it.
And sneak peek, Jay, real quick.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you, and I'm not going to tell you who, but someone on this panel thinks he's throwing for 300 yards this week.
Gee.
Oh, gee.
I wonder
wonder
who that is.
Oh, gee. Who could that be? You know what? Here's what I thought. When I saw that in his headline, I said, McNuggets could be the 6th starter this year. And we would ask the question, what are your expectations for McNuggets? Oh, he got 300. He got 300.
But by the way, that Kool-Aid be hitting different because I said every week Joe Flacco was throwing for 3, and he just did what I said.
You're right.
By the way, to defend G, when we got off the phone, I said, Micah, back this up. I said, man, G's in La La Land. And then I said, but this whole season's been La La Land.
You're right.
Who the hell knows?
I mean, look, maybe this is the year where G's unrealistic expectations. Remember before the season started, how many yards is Deshaun Watson? I got him for 5,000.
So here's the thing. I've actually written these down. I've written them down on a tablet on my refrigerator.
Yeah.
Things I was right about. Odell Beckham getting $15 million. That's on you, boo. Joe Flacco coming to throw for 3. That was on all y'all. Jason, I told you DeJuan Jones was good. He's going to play. And Kareem Hunt has almost 10 touchdowns. Oh, and Brock Purdy has been garbage against good teams. So therefore, you.
No, not against all the good teams.
Oh, no.
That's
He's
not
beaten
fair.
some really good teams. His bad games have come against really good
He's
teams, though.
he's had a few garbage games, but I would agree with Jay. He's had good games.
When do you want to talk about Amani Bates?
How about Kevin Stefanski? He out of here. He out of here. He's out of this. His leash is this long. He got 6 games.
Fire him! Fire him! During the Colts game. Fire him!
We hugged it out. I talked to him via email, and I said I was sorry to him, and he said it was cool. Now, Imani Bates, he getting about 30 a game. Now, that is in the JV, but
Hey, this is going to be a fun Friday. I have a
Gee,
good
we
feeling
love
about
it.
this
We
Friday.
love it. Don't ever change, man. Don't ever
And Jay,
change.
this first topic's right up your alley because we're going to talk about some expectations for guys who are playing an expanded role. But before we do that, a quick word from FanDuel. Even as the weather gets colder and the NFL season nears its end, there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose, for new customers. The app is easy to use, and they have so many different ways to bet, including live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explorer tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find popular parlays, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And let's give a shout out to Matt Kolker for today's winning ticket. This comes our last ticket from Thursday Night Football last week, but Matt hit a 12-part same-game parlay, turned $10 into $700, $698 to be exact, with a 12-part same-game parlay on the Browns win over the Jets. A couple of the ones he hit on were Njoku over 40 receiving yards, Breece Hall over 25 receiving yards, Joe Flacco over a passing touchdown, Breece Hall over 40 rushing yards, and Garrett Wilson under 51.5 receiving yards. Wilson finished with 50, so by the hair of his chin, turned $10.
Now, why is
into
Cooper
700.
voided on that ticket?
Because he didn't play.
He didn't play.
Oh, yeah, right.
So had Cooper played and those hit, that 10 could have been even more.
Good for
But
him.
still, good for Matt.
That's interesting.
$10
So if a
into
guy doesn't play,
700.
it's voided. I never knew that. I figured you just lost the bet because it didn't get the.
No.
Yeah, no.
It gets
If he
voided.
gets hurt during the game, you're
Right,
screwed.
right.
It's like in the old days before they were giving half points for everything,
Right.
and the game was tied. It was just a push.
Yeah.
You know, you got your money
that's
back.
interesting.
Take
No
it
big
out.
deal.
Let's
I
get
got a
to our
question
first
for you, Mikey,
shoot.
before we dive in. Rate your 5-piece of stats, the McNuggets 5-piece of stats. Is it good this week? Is it
Usually,
great?
no, it's not the greatest one, I'll be honest, because
Good
I didn't
teams.
know who was playing. So this was more big picture, overall Brown stuff as we get ready. for
Mike,
week
it's okay to
17.
fib and say it's unbelievable. We want
Listen,
viewers to stick around.
One thing I don't do is I don't lie.
All right,
I'll be honest
well,
with the people.
we appreciate
That's
your
great.
honesty.
There's
But
some
let me just tell you
interesting stuff in
something. I
there.
think it's going to be awesome because it
There-
always is.
It's good stuff. It's just not the greatest.
And one
nuggets.
other thing, Mike was saying all week, and I've repeated this to many people. In fact, I
Yeah.
told Jimmy Donovan, I'm going to have to tell him when I see him later that I/McNuggets was wrong.
Yeah.
I've been telling everybody, McNuggets has been researching this. He says he's gone back till the point that they started keeping records that no NFL team has ever won 5 games with 5 different quarterbacks in the same season. And this morning on the call, he tells us, "Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I got
It did
that.
happen once.
It has
It's-
happened before. It's happened.
It
In the
has
strike
happened.
season, but
There's
it
an
counts.
asterisk.
That
next to it.
There
actually
is an
should have been
asterisk,
the
but it
first.
has
That should have been the
happened.
first place you check the strike season because that's all where all the anomalies are, right?
You're
They
right,
didn't even play
yeah.
a full season, which may even make it more impressive. But the 1987 Patriots did technically have 5 quarterbacks that win a game. It was Doug Flutie, Bob Byler, Tony Eason, Tom Ramsey, and Steve Grogan all won games
I have
that
not
season.
heard. Who was the second guy? I never heard of that guy.
He was
Bob
probably-
Byler, who was the replacement
I was going to say he was probably the
who
replacement
played
quarterback.
one game, played against guys who never played again.
Yeah.
He played against NFL players who were
And that was in
replacement players
14
the strike.
games, right?
They played 15 that season. They were
15.
I
8 and
remember
7.
that strike. That was nutty.
Yeah,
A bunch
it
of
was
dudes
crazy.
out there
It was
that-
so weird. Did
It
you ever see the
was.
movie The Replacements? Have you guys seen?
No,
that?
I didn't see it.
Yeah, is that the
seen
Gene
that?
Hackman movie?
Yeah.
Gene Hackman
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Was
Keanu
it
Reeves.
was it based on that season or no?
No, but it was based on. There were a bunch of replacement, on a strike.
Yeah,
It
no,
was-
I didn't see that.
What movie
Funny
was it
movie.
where the quarterback kept throwing up in his helmet with Jamie Foxx?
It's Any
Any
Given
Given
Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good one
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, they can tie history, but it wouldn't technically be the first time, even though
yes,
it'd be the
I
first
mean,
time
still make
against
history.
non-replacement players it would ever happen. So there is still something on the line here, but
Sure.
you are right, and my bad. I did find it, though.
That's
So
okay.
before
No,
we
I
got
wanted
there,
to clear
I
that
did
up because
find
we've
it.
been
Yeah.
saying on the air this week a number of times that
Yeah.
he's trying to do something that hasn't been done before. And we're going to talk about, we're still going to rate that accomplishment, even though it has been done. We'll rate that accomplishment in the pantheon of all these great sports records that we so often like to talk about. We're starting with backups because that's the story for this week.
Yeah.
Which of the backups are you guys most excited to see?
For me, it's Pierre Strong because I've been championing for him to play for most of the season. Now, credit to Jerome Ford, as I've been down on him all year. I thought he played his best game last week. I thought he showed great patience. I thought he showed the best vision he's seen all year. I don't know what happened. Hopefully that will continue. But the numbers don't look eye-popping, but I thought he played really well and had some excellent runs.
That's all they need. That's all they need.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
hell,
it is eye-popping because
That's
the
5 yards a carry on the rushes, but
Yeah.
the receiving yards and the touchdowns.
Right, that was a great play by him. He did a lot of work on that play.
Tremendous play.
But every time I've seen Pierre Strong play, I feel like there's a little juice there that they haven't used for whatever reason. Now, I trust Kevin Stefanski. Obviously, there's a reason they haven't used him. But the guy, when he got a chance in New England was pretty effective. And that's 4.6 yards per carry in limited carries is pretty impressive behind an offensive line that's been not that good against, in terms of the run. So he's the guy I'd like to see. I think the Browns are going to run the ball a ton in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if he ran for 100 yards this week.
Wow, nice. Jay?
Well, the guy I'm most interested to see is Jeff Driskel. How about that, Cole?
You stole my thunder.
Yeah, because so there's two schools of thought here on why you start Driskel. Either you're trying to protect PJ Walker because you want to go in to the playoffs fully healthy at the quarterback position.
Whoever thought you'd say that? You're starting someone other than PJ because you want to make sure he's healthy. But you're right. You're right, though.
Or
I know you want to see what he can do.
Or you want to see what Driskel can do because he might be your backup quarterback if Flacco were to go down. And no one wants to talk about it, but the backup's one play away. You're one snap away, and you have to have somebody back there you can trust. And I don't think Kevin Stefanski trusts P.J. Walker because he is a turnover machine. Every time he touches the ball, he turns it over. So if Driskel shows something Sunday and he's halfway decent, it wouldn't shock me at all if PJ's deactivated and Driskel is the backup to Joe Flacco in the playoffs. I think that's why he's out there on Sunday. So, yeah, this matters. This matters a lot. You may not think it does, but I think it does. And the numbers are not great, when you look at the record. But the touchdown interceptions.
The numbers don't match up for either guy.
Yeah, I know.
They're really odd.
So, they did cut PJ. They did release him. And then they brought him back on practice squad when, shocking, he went unclaimed. So I don't think that there's this great love affair And I don't think PJ's entrenched as the backup. So if Driskel falls flat on his face and he's a disaster and he turns it over 3 times, they'll probably roll with Flacco and PJ into the playoffs. And hopefully it doesn't matter. Hopefully Joe stays healthy and it's a moot point. But you got to have somebody back there you can trust. So I think absolutely this matters because Jeff Driskel could be your backup quarterback going to the playoffs.
I think Jeff Driskel, when they got him, I think it's even deeper than that. I think they're trying to gather a lot of data. I know they're analytical, but take a look at it. You got you got PJ Walker. You got some data on him. You got DTR, a little bit of data on him. Now you bring in Jeff Driskel, and you already know what Joe Flacco's been doing. Now the situation is like, okay, not only are they looking at probably this year, I think they're already starting to look at contingency plans next year. If you were to tell me who's going to be the starting quarterback or the backup quarterback next year, because Deshaun Watson will be starting the season, there could be 3-4 different answers. They'll be battling it out, especially if they want to bring Flacco back. I like your argument. I've been arguing for Pierre Strong for a minute. I think he has more juice with giving the carries. I think you'll see what he can do. He's more of a downhill running back. But for me, I'm going to just spice it up a little bit and go with Cedric Tillman. If you ask me what's the Browns' biggest need going into next year, I would say receiver. I see why they gave up Donovan Peoples-Jones. Bernie talked about it, and he said, I could see why the Browns like him, big body guy, but I need to see him finish these routes. He's been pushed out of bounds a little bit. I think he's been caught asking for flags a little bit too much. And 2 or 3 times, it looks like he did not do what he was supposed to do in the route. So for me, you get an opportunity to be the number 1 receiver out here. I want to see what Cedric Tillman has to offer.
All of those are right answers. They're the top 3 in my book. But for me, because it's the vital position, I'm with Jason. It's got to be Jeff Driskel. We don't know what this guy can do. I mean, Bull's probably more familiar with him than any of us because he started for the Bengals for
not
a little.
Much, but
you've seen him more than we've seen him. I honest to God, I don't know what the hell to expect from him. I mean, he could go out there. It's interesting when you look at his numbers. I don't know how he only won 1 of his 10 starts. Those are numbers that you would think would win games.
Often with a quarterback of that level, which is Jeff Driskel, PJ Walker, if the defense stay, maybe he's putting up those numbers after they've been blown out already.
There's a lot of variables we don't know, but Flacco's touchdown to interceptions are 13-8.
Right.
And he's 4-1.
Right, but Joe Flacco the last few years, his win-loss record's terrible, and he's been at times terrible, but at times he's played well and they've lost.
Yeah, I just think that for a sample size that's 10 games,
right?
And you tell me he's only going to turn it over 8 times in those 10 games, but he's going to throw for 14 touchdowns. You think, okay, he'll get lucky in 2 or 3, maybe 4 of those games to win.
I don't know.
I think he's, I don't know. What my expectation is, he's going to surprise us. He's not going to wow us. He's not going to come up to Joe Flacco level, but I think he's going to look like all the quarterbacks in this system at times have looked. Mm-hmm. There were moments where I looked at P.J. Walker, not many, but there were times where I said, wow, didn't expect that from him. DTR at times looked like he was on the path to be the definitive backup quarterback in this system. Yeah. Certainly Deshaun Watson had moments. So I think this system makes it easy for quarterbacks to have moments like that. The key is he needs to have more moments where he looks good than scratch your head moments like P.J. Walker gave us. And if he takes care of the football, there's no reason why the Browns can't win this game.
Yeah, sure. This is a game, neither team really has anything to play for. The Bengals are playing a lot of their starters.
Are they? I was just going to ask you that.
I mean, they're playing. I mean, Jamar Chase is banged up and he's playing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, Browning's been a starter now for half the year. He's playing. So I think most of their guys are going to play. I don't know, T. Higgins is a little banged up too. I'm not sure what he's doing. But most of their guys are going to play. But you never know what the motivation is. It's not like the Bengals have a chance to spoil something for the Browns. So I don't know what their motivation is going to be. Yeah. It's a weird game. The Bengals are favored by 7.
Feels like an exhibition game, doesn't it?
I mean, it just
the backups are going to be out there, at least for the Browns, and there's nothing at stake.
One other interesting guy on this team that I assume is going to play is Ronnie Hickman. Now,
I would imagine he'd play a lot.
I would assume, right?
He's playing.
Yeah.
Now, Ronnie Hickman has played really, really well the last few weeks. And you wonder, as the Browns now have a lot of good players and they're paying a lot of money on a lot of players, you wonder if the Browns, like, if they look at Hickman as being a starting caliber player in the NFL, and he's played that way for the last month now, doesn't mean he is, but I don't know how the Browns feel about him. Maybe they think about cutting ties with Delpit or Thornhill. I'm not saying it's going to happen,
Sometimes
but you can't pay everybody.
Well, didn't that happen with Harris at center a couple of years ago?
Yeah,
I think they were so impressed with what they saw from
let
him.
Shredder go.
Yeah, and they said, you know what?
Yeah.
I think we can part ways with JC because he's played well enough to inherit the starter job.
Right.
Then he obviously got hurt. They had to get posted.
Well, I thought also they told JC, you doing too much union around here.
Yeah, that had a lot to do with it,
I
too.
was going to say, I think that had more to do with it.
But I do think this, though, because I agree with you guys. I think there was a lot of that underneath the surface.
He basically
but I
got
also
all the
think that if
linemen to
Harris,
boycott
yes, but if
off-season
Harris
program.
wasn't ready, I don't know that they would have pulled trigger on that move.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna sacrifice the strength of your line unless you and they probably said, you know what, all things being equal, Harris can do the job. JC's expendable.
Yeah, and so you just, you wonder. That happens, right? The Bengals just did that last year. They let both their safeties go.
Yeah, you're right.
Because they felt like they had to save money in other places to pay Burrow, to pay Chase, whatever.
And Hickman's
now the Browns spend
undrafted
more than
free
the
agent.
Bengals do. But, Hickman's making no money. So, we'll see. I'm not saying that's definitely going to let those guys go.
Right.
But he's interesting because, he's played – I think he's played phenomenally
Played very well. In the preseason, I think he had three interceptions.
Yeah.
He's had a couple more, hasn't he, including a pick six?
I don't know how this guy went undrafted.
I don't either. But credit to the Browns scouting staff for calling this guy in, undrafted out of Ohio State, and he has been a contributor. So, I'm on the defensive side. I think he's the guy I'm most interested to see. Yeah. Can he keep that play up, Mike?
Little
Who's the
teaser,
Browns,
but Hickman
defensive
is in,
backs coach, by the way, Mike? Do you know? Does anybody know?
I'll look it up in one sec, but
Because
little
he's been
teaser.
phenomenal.
Hickman's in the 5 stats that's coming up. Another guy to watch, though, is Cam Mitchell. And you talk about making decisions. If Cam Mitchell steps in and plays at a level that is up to par with some other guys, they have a lot of guys in secondary that have to get paid.
Yeah.
And not just as safeties, but as cornerbacks. And once again, as both said, you can't pay everybody.
Right.
So at
you look
some
to
point,
save where you can.
Yeah.
And that might be a couple of guys that will allow them to save money with some of the veterans instead of paying them to stick around.
We're going to foreshadow this McNuggets. I agree with that to a certain extent, only if you have the coaching staff to back it up. And I think Jim Schwartz is a very big reason why some of these guys that we see are like, how are they doing it?
Yeah.
What are they doing? Well, they're playing very, very well right now. Because
we're going to talk about Schwartz's impact on the defense. I think we'll be able to measure it this weekend because you're going to take the Jimmies and the Joes out, and then it will be all about the X's and the O's, and it'll give us a chance to sort of see just what Jim Schwartz's impact can be with just guys, not superstars, but just guys. Mike?
Well, that leads us right into our next topic, and a quick reminder that even as the NFL season comes to an end, there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, including live same-game parlays, finding bets in the new Explorer tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find popular parlays, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. We'll talk about the NFLPA Players Poll and where Schwartz came in on that in a sec. But, G, to your point, and I just want to ask this question, and maybe it's ridiculous, but I think it could be valid depending how you look at it. If you think Schwartz is as good of a defensive coordinator as I think we all look at him as, how good do you think this Browns defense could be if you take the starting 11 out and put Jim Schwartz with the backup 11, which do include some really good players like Hickman, Ogbo, Alex Wright, Shelby Harris. They got some ballers on that second unit. Gee, how good could this defense be? Jim Schwartz coaching the Browns' second teamers.
Well, we're going to find out. I think they'll play very well. Like, if you go back to the preseason, they didn't play anybody. They didn't play Myles Garrett. They didn't play, a lot of guys. The biggest name we saw play was like Zadarius Smith. He played like one or two series. But one thing that we saw was we started saying early, if they can't move the ball on these dudes, what it's going to look like when they got all the pieces there. And we started seeing that the first game. I think Jim Schwartz is a very pivotal piece. And the reason I say this is my experience is this. Jim Schwartz holds you accountable for certain things that a lot of coaches wouldn't. I love the fact that he talks about his defense in the public, because when you make a certain amount of money, I don't believe in that. Oh, you don't call your players out. No. When you make a certain amount of money, you have to be accountable, and he does it. And he gives you little nuggets at first. He warns you in practice. Then he warned you a little bit in the press conferences, right? When they were getting gashed in the middle of the season, when they was giving up all them rush yards, he was like, listen, we got to buckle down. We ain't trying to hear about no awards and none of that. The second thing that he brings to the table is this. It's not just his scheme. It's the way he calls the scheme. It's about when he calls the pressures or when he calls the things up front to get people home. And that's the part I think people miss the most. And if you don't have Jim Schwartz, you don't have that mentality. Look at the way that the mentality from JOK to Newsome to Ward to Emerson, some of those other guys. Look how good Taki has looked. He's molded these dudes because he simplifies the game plan. He has them play fast, and it's just not what he's saying. It's what he does in certain downs of distance. So I'm gonna see this week. That's why I believe every football game is important. There's only 18 of them. That's what makes the NFL great. You can learn something from every single week that people go out there and play.
Mike framed the question with Schwartz calling the defense and second stringers playing. This Browns defense would be what? So what is your answer to that?
Over a whole season?
Top 5, top half?
Oh, you mean a whole season?
Yeah. Like what?
Extrapolated? Like,
yeah, like what would they be if you took the superstars out? Could they be a top half defense?
I think they could possibly be a 15, 14. Don't get it twisted. The reason the Browns are good is because they got two things every defensive coordinator wants. Rush guys. You got the best rush guy who's going to take up 3-4 blocks, and you can scheme around that. 2, they actually have somebody on the other side that you can't just single up all the time who can get home. 3, they got defensive tackles and waves of them that they rotate in and get money off, and it doesn't matter. They're going to wave them in. And I think almost the most important thing is you got 3 corners that play man-to-man better than pretty much every other corner in the league. You got 3 of them. So now you could double up and do whatever you want to. I think the scheme works hand in hand with the personnel. If he didn't have that personnel, you take Myles Garrett away, Denzel Ward. Oh, it's different. Don't act like you could go out there and do that. Like these guys are special. He got special talent.
Jay,
I can't go any higher than 15 or 20 because, like you just said, when you take away Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, MJ Emerson, I mean, you can only do so much.
Even JOK. Now,
yeah, I mean, where JOK's at, and now for Mike's question, now you're relying on Siaki Ika to play a pretty big role, and we just haven't seen enough to confidently say. I mean, by the way, when you're talking about all backups still being top 15 or 20 means you're better than 10 groups of starters.
Exactly.
That's still pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys are out of your mind if you think they'd still be top 15.
I said 20.
Come on now.
15.
Listen, this is no insult to Jim Schwartz or the defense. I don't think they'd be the worst in football, but let's compare it here. The Bengals defense this year has not been very good. They've been a bottom 10 defense in the league.
Are they really bottom 10?
Yeah, they have not been good, okay?
Wow, I didn't realize that.
But if you compare talent of the Bengals starting defense and the Browns backup defense, the Bengals are better in every spot except for maybe safety. That's it. All right, the Bengals would have a way better D-line, way better linebackers, and way better corners if you're talking starters against backups. And the Bengals are bottom 10. So there's no way and you could say, well, they got Jim Schwartz. Well, listen, you want to blame Lou Anarumo for this year? Fine. But until this year, he's been considered one of the best defensive coordinators in the league.
I thought he would get a head coach job.
Exactly. So we can't get crazy. Jim Schwartz is as good, if not better, than any defensive coordinator in the league. And the Browns' backup talent, especially on the D-line and in the secondary, is solid. But their linebackers would be trash. And it's just backups. I mean, you got to be realistic. It would. You ask me this about almost any other team, I'd say it would be clearly the worst in football. With the Browns, I'll say, or maybe they're the 5th worst or the 6th worst or whatever. That's no insult. That's just a reality.
Well,
come on, 15.
If you say 15, it's only have 32 teams?
You think half the teams in the NFL have a worse defense than the Browns' backups? Come on, that's not realistic.
I said at best 20, 15 to 20.
At best 20,
That's
and
what
I think
said.
that's pushing it.
Yeah, I think it'd be lower third.
Yeah.
I'm with Bull. I just want to be realistic on it. I will say, though, I think it's been proven this year, the Browns have had a number of backups that have gotten quality time that have really flashed. And so it does make you wonder, how much of that is the X's and the O's? But when you take a pass rusher like Myles Garrett out of that group, who really makes so much happen, he makes it easier on all the corners because they don't have to cover for so long. Yep. Why are they the best corners in terms of covering? Because they only have to cover for a short period of time.
1.3 seconds to get pressure?
I mean, you can guard a guy for 1.3 seconds. When you ask a guy to guard these top elite receivers for 3 and 4 seconds, you're going to get beat.
Yeah.
So Myles is the straw that makes everything great.
That's right.
He makes all the other pass rushers great.
Yes.
He makes the corners look a little better than they are. For whatever reason, Denzel Ward last year, and we theorized maybe he had something going on off the field, he didn't look like Denzel Ward. Maybe it was the system. But I do think that I don't want to, this is kind of like the Brady Belichick question to me. Is it the system? Is it the quarterback? I think we've kind of learned that it had a hell of a lot more to do with the quarterback than it did with the coach. And in this case, I think because of that lesson that we've learned, I would say that they would be okay. Yeah. They would be bottom third. And that's as high as I could put them.
And think about this for a minute. And this is no insult. Because any other team, I'm saying dead last.
Sure.
Dead last.
You're talking about, we've got 11 starters out on defense. Any team would fold the tent and go home.
Exactly. Think about this specific example. The Browns have completely had the Bengals number since Kevin Stefanski's been here. To me, the two biggest reasons for that are Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. Yeah. Because Myles Garrett has wreaked havoc against the Bengals. Yeah. And Denzel Ward is one of the few corners that does a great job against Jamar Chase. If you didn't have just those two guys, I don't think the Browns win nearly as many games against the Bengals as they have. Not even close. Yeah. And that's just two guys, let alone the whole defense.
Now, motivation will play a part in this game because I would like to say that this
game,
I would like to say that this is at least like sort of the control and the experiment because you've got a lot of the starters going for the Bengals and you've got a lot of the backups going for that Browns defense. So let's see what happens. But you can't measure the motivation. Yeah. The Bengals may have already packed their golf clubs and shipped them to Florida. Yeah, so we just can't use this game as say, like if they pitch a shutout, we can't come back here Monday and say, hey, I guess they are a top-rated defense.
And I won't do the opposite either. If the Browns defense gets killed in this game, I'm not going to go, oh, see, I told you. Either way.
But also, I mean, we could say this is like a preseason game, but it's really not. You can't rest everybody.
No, they're going to play. Yeah,
they're going to play quite a few guys. They're not. You're not. Obviously, they're not playing Flacco. They're not playing. You can't play Amari. Because you can't play Amari with the backup quarterback.
Well, they're not going to play Elijah
not playing
Moore
either. I would guess.
Right.
I don't think Goodwin's going to play.
But on the defensive side, Myles probably isn't going to play. But you're going to and Denzel, I would say for sure.
Is that how confident do you feel in that? That he's probably. You said he's probably not going to play.
I mean, I don't know definitively, but I think. Probably those guys are going to
we talked about this yesterday. I kind of thought that he would be politicking to play.
Oh, for sure. He wants to play.
Get that DPOY.
Myles want to play. But, I mean, Kevin came out the other day and said he doesn't need to play in this game to win. Great. Good. So that tells me he's not playing in this game.
Well, you think Newsome and
I'm only saying you
Might
can't.
play?
This isn't a preseason.
You need
game.
bodies.
You can. There's only so many guys you can rest.
Yeah.
You can't sit everybody.
Yeah, in a preseason game, if your roster is still sitting at 70,
right. But
then you've got choices.
Here's my list of absolute not playing. Would be Flacco, Amari, Myles, Denzel. Absolute.
What about Ford and
beyond that?
Even Hunt.
I think Ford, Hunt, Godwin, Moore,
Bitonio.
The starting guards, the starting center. I don't think any of those guys play.
But
Ogbo's not going to play, obviously.
And they have to be ready. Obviously, one injury and they need to go in. And you can have Michael Dunn and Nick Harris start on the offensive line. But I think that some people feel like no one's going to play. And that's just not the case.
Fans talk about Bradley Chubb and what happened in Miami. They were down 30. It's the last 2 minutes of the game, and this dude is out probably clearly for this year.
Yeah.
He probably won't be back until mid to late season next year. Does that come up, do you think, with the coaches? Are they talking about these cautionary tales? Or Bull always says you can't live in your fears, you got to put guys out there to play?
I think it's a case-by-case basis. Like with Denzel's injury history, there's no reason to play him.
Right.
With Amari coming off the heel and the fact that you've got a backup quarterback you can't expose him to more hospital balls. We don't know what Jeff Driskel. Is he going to throw him an ICU ball and now he's out for the playoffs?
Right.
So even without the heel, you can't play Amari just because of the backup quarterback situation. Bitonio, I would rest because he's got the back thing and whatever else. I know Wyatt's been nicked up a little bit at times
why
this
play
year.
him?
So, but at not every spot do you have the luxury of saying.
I mean, the thing of it is, if you take 22, let's just say you took all 22, and the kicker's not starting either, so that's 23 of your 24 starters. I think Bojorquez is going to play. But if you rest the 23, that leaves your roster with 30 guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can call up some guy. Well, I guess there's
You
a
can
limit
two
on that.
practice squad
It's
call-ups.
stupid. They should for the last week of the season.
yeah,
have
Bo
that be
brought
bigger.
that up earlier this
Yeah.
week. What do you think about that? I thought it was a great idea. Baseball expands its roster in September. I think it's a great idea for football to
For
do
the last
that.
game to be
Or
able to
even the
expand.
last two,
month,
maybe
you know,
3
but
games.
certainly the last game.
Expand it
a lot
to
of teams
60.
are in this situation where they're resting guys.
Right.
Baltimore's doing it. There's a lot of teams that are resting.
Yeah, I
guys.
don't know. I mean, then there's other teams who are playing for something, but I guess that's no different than baseball, where there's teams that are playing for something going against teams.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
are those guys going to make a difference? Like, you know, I don't know.
One thing I wanted to bring up really quickly before I know Mike's got to do a read. Sometimes good ideas come from people that are furthest away from the fire. And we were taught. I was watching the game with a group of people, and when Hopkins got hurt on the kickoff, someone who is not a football fan that I was watching with said, "What the hell is he doing trying to tackle him anyhow? He's small and slow. He shouldn't even be out there." And I said, "Well, what is he going to do? Kick and then run off the field? He's the last line of defense." And he goes, "No. Why don't they do like hockey? As soon as he kicks the ball, he sprints to the sideline, and an alternative defender comes on at the exact same spot. He can't come on down at the goal line. He comes on at the 30-yard line, and now he's the extra defender. And you know what? At first it sounded absurd to me, and the more I thought about it, the more I'm like,
Makes perfect
that's
sense.
a great idea.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
I don't
do
want
like
my
that.
kicker making tackles.
Right.
That's true.
Let me ask you guys one thing real quick. We got Tim Couch in 4 minutes, but there was the NFLPA Players Survey that came out, and they ranked every player to vote on their own coordinator. So just their own coordinator, rank them 1 to 10. They only released the top 5. So there's a chance Jim Schwartz might be 6 by 0.1 points. We have no idea. But Steve, take tag board full. Jim Schwartz wasn't among the top 5 highest-rated defensive coordinators among their own players. It went Aaron Glenn of Detroit, Steve Wilkes in San Francisco, Dan Quinn of Dallas, Brian Flores in Minnesota, and Raheem Morris with the Rams. Just based on the way we've heard the players talk about Jim Schwartz, were any of you guys as surprised as I was that he didn't find his way onto this list? Which, by the way, means nothing. It's not an ancillary,
I think
I was.
I think the headline of the list is completely misleading because they're just every player's voting on their own guy and how much they like them.
You know what?
Yeah.
You're exactly right. When I read it, I thought, well, this is voted on by their own players and only their own players.
Right.
So
I mean,
to me, it becomes which coach is most liked by his players.
Yeah.
And you know what? The best coaches are not always well liked by.
No, that's true.
In fact, when you heard at the Cowboys ceremony on Saturday night when they put Jimmy Johnson into the Ring of Honor in Dallas, he flat said, or one of the players may have said, "I was the biggest asshole in the room."
Yeah.
And typically, look at Belichick. Like, guys, there's no picnic playing for that guy.
No.
But if you like to win and you like to be pushed and you like to be the best version of yourself, then. But I think in this case, maybe the best coaches aren't necessarily the most well received by their own players.
Yeah, and also, like Mike said, I mean, maybe those guys all got 10s from every player, and Jim Schwartz got a 9 from one guy. You know, like that. It could be as simple as that.
From a backup who thinks he should be playing more.
Who knows?
For me, I used to be more into politics than I am now. But I mean, this is poll data, man. I mean, how many times you guys got to learn out there? Poll data is not a true guide of how effective or popular somebody is, right?
Yeah.
We be having polling data and be like, his approval rating is at all-time low, and then they get elected. You'd be like, what happened?
Yeah.
Well, look, these guys are how hard are they thinking about this?
Yeah, I don't know.
They're just
stupid.
not going
It's
in there like,
it's
now,
not.
guys, let's get together and figure out what we're going to give Jim Schwartz. All they care about is winning. And, like you said, that data could be a little bit skewed.
Jay, you have your pulse, your finger on the pulse of the locker room. You're the only one of us that are in there on a regular basis. So you can speak to the camaraderie that they have. Because we talk about the team camaraderie, and I think they have, we talked about chemistry being the most important ingredient to any championship team. That we had a conversation on that earlier this week. What is the camaraderie just among the defense, including Schwartz? Like, how does that group look at one another?
I think it's energized. Like the whole locker room, it's the best since I've started hanging around that team. This is by far the best it's ever been.
Why do you think?
Because they're winning.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually wrote about this the other day. It was more, I compared Flacco's impact on this locker room to Channing Frye when he came over to the Cavs. And a couple of people were like, what are you talking about? Like, that team had LeBron. I'm like, yeah, no shit, that team had LeBron.
Yeah.
But
this team has Myles Garrett.
But what Channing did was he broke down walls, he broke down clicks, and he unified the entire team. I've seen Joe do that here where he's just energized the entire team. He walked in with a Super Bowl ring, and when he talks, they snap to attention, whether you're offense or defense. More offense, but offense or defense, they snap to attention.
Yeah.
Because he's been there, he knows the way down the path, and he's got the flashlight, and they're all following behind him. So the locker room, we've talked plenty of times about how toxic and dysfunctional the locker room has been over the years, and I could tell you stories about guys punching guys an hour before kickoff, and all that's gone. And
You've never told us that story, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll tell you later.
So you said you can tell us stories. I want names.
We got to hear about that.
I'll tell you later. But all of that is gone and that was years and years ago. But this is the most energized and felt like and they were winning before Joe got here. But just they felt like the season was. I mean, they're not going to say this, but they felt the season was over when Deshaun went down.
I agree.
Everybody in there thought it was over.
But each team has the two factions, the offense and the defense. Can you compare the camaraderie of those groups? I mean, obviously the offense and their leader has changed multiple times. How does the camaraderie and the cohesiveness of the defense compare to that of the offense?
It's hard to say because we're actually not in there a ton. And and I was actually talking to a couple players when I was writing the Channing story about, like, listen, we're not in here a ton, so tell me if I'm totally off base on this or not. When we're in there, a lot of times the players, Tim will tell you, the players aren't in there. They know the media's in there. They're not in there.
Yep. Yeah. So we get taped.
So we don't see as much as people tend to think that we do. But I can just tell you that, like, Miles loves screwing around with the defensive guys. And even Amari Cooper, who is the quietest guy in the locker room the last few weeks, has been yelling and hooping and hollering and dancing and getting into it. Like, everybody is having a great – the locker room does have more players in it now than it usually does during media availability.
Well, that's good.
Just because everybody's in a great mood.
Well, when you win, you want a microphone. When you lose, you don't.
Guys, quick note before we bring in Tim. One of my favorite Cleveland Indians, he was an Indian, the Cleveland Guardians now, has just announced his retirement. Michael Brantley.
No
After
kidding.
15 seasons in the big leagues is retiring.
He was always one of my favorite. I did too.
He was
one of my favorites when he was here.
Most home runs by an Indian/Guardians outfielder in the last 12 years is Michael Brantley, who's not even really a power hitter.
No.
It is hard to believe.
Shame they didn't bring him back.
Hard to believe. We're going to bring Tim Couch in here, and as always, Tim Couch is brought to us by FanDuel. As the NFL regular season wraps up, there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed just by placing a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose for new customers. The app is easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, including live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the Explorer tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find popular parlays, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And Jason, you talked about punching people in the locker room. We know nobody was messing with Tim Couch back in the day. That's a fact.
Hell, he could walk into the Browns locker room today and no one's messing with him.
Yeah.
The story I'm referring to is between Tim and now. It's not that.
Also, Tim could corroborate the story.
No, he's saying it happened between.
I think it was after Tim. It was after Tim.
I was going to say, it sounds like something happened on one of the teams I played on for sure. But
Do you have any crazy
there's not a lot of happy players in that locker room.
Were there any
there was
instances in Cleveland where you had to step in and break something up or anything that, you don't have to name names, but
No, you got to name
anything
names.
you'd like to share?
Yeah. I remember one fight in the locker room. It was between a wide receiver and a defensive back, both starters on our team. That I think it was a playoff team we went to, and it was after a practice. There was some jawing going on out on the field. We get back in the locker room, and it turned into a full-out brawl, fist fight. And it took a few of us to help separate that fight. But those things kind of happen. Especially when you're not winning games and there's not a lot of happy players in the locker room.
An hour before the season opener, a defensive back punched an offensive lineman over music. An hour before the season opener.
Music was always
never a good sign.
was a big deal in the Indians locker room in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
Albert Bell was very specific about what
I
kind
would
of
mess with
music
him.
he wanted and didn't want played in the
A
clubhouse.
defensive back punching an offensive lineman does not seem like a smart move.
But what's he
not a smart
going
move.
to do? Like, you're an hour before the game. You can't kill the guy. He needs him on the field. But Tim, music can be a big deal in that locker room.
It's a big deal. It's definitely a big deal in the weight room when you're in there training, and certain guys want to listen to certain type of music, and I've seen some arguments in the weight room as well over music for sure.
Man, that sucks, man. That's terrible. And we were so bad, Tim. Our coach used to come in and tell us, guys, we need to pray and get ready. Turn that music off.
Gospel music.
I said, we in here praying to God before the kickoff. It's a wrap.
He made you listen to gospel music.
Went out there, Urban Meyer put 72 on us at Bowling Green. 72, we there praying before the game.
Hey, Tim, yesterday we talked about chemistry and how that's it's an unmeasurable ingredient. You can't buy it. You can't force it. It happens organically. You've played on teams that were good. You've played on teams that were bad. Talk a little bit about, does the media make more of that than what it really is? How important is chemistry? Can it, what is its ultimate impact on a team?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. I mean, each year is different. Each team is going to be different as far as chemistry goes, and how the players get along in the locker room, like we've talked about. Is there fighting going on? Is there a lot of bickering going on out on the field, finger pointing, those kind of things? So when the chemistry is right on a team, it's just one of those kind of feelings that no matter what's going on in a game, kind of the ups and the downs. We had a turnover. The defense isn't playing well. The offense isn't playing well. Nothing really rattles a team that has good chemistry because they believe in each other and they're going to figure it out together. They're going to find a way to win games. And I think that's what this team this year has really done. And they've shown no matter who's the quarterback, it doesn't matter if we started 4 quarterbacks, our best player, Nick Chubb, has been out for the season. We've lost offensive linemen. We have so much chemistry on this team that they just find different ways to continue to win football games, and that's what's been most impressive to me this season.
Tim, I said earlier there's 2 reasons why you would start Jeff Driskel. Either you're trying to protect P.J. Walker and make sure both your quarterbacks are healthy going to the playoffs, or what I believe, you want to see if Jeff Driskel can replace P.J. Walker as your backup quarterback. Is that insane to think that one start in Week 18 could be enough to leapfrog P? I just don't think that Kevin has any faith in P.J. Walker because he's a turnover machine. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying how important do you think this game is for Jeff Driskel and the Browns against the Bengals?
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. I don't think there's a lot of faith in P.J. Walker. I think, just watching when he was in the lineup, the offense was very scaled down. They were trying to, not put him in a lot of positions to where he, had to do too much. They weren't asking him to do a whole lot out there. So for a guy like Jeff Driskel to come in and get a start in the last week of the season like this, I think you want to see what's there. Jeff is a guy that's bounced around the league. I think this is maybe his 7th team or so that he's been on so far in his career. And I remember watching Jeff when he was in college at Florida, and a very good player, a very good athlete. I think he's a lot faster than people probably realize. I think, he was probably a 4.5, 4.6 guy. He can really run the football. He's a big, strong, physical guy. He's got a strong arm. There's some skill set there that you like. I think he's a capable backup. So hopefully he can get acclimated to the offense quickly and go out there and have a good performance and take advantage of this opportunity that he has to start a football game for a playoff team.
Tim, guys around here is getting excited. There's been a very few seasons where the Browns, you could say Super Bowl without people laughing or saying lack thereof.
Right.
They haven't been there. As far as a former player, I've always wondered this. How locked in are you, just as a former player playing for the Browns in terms of rooting for the team, watching the team? And do you go through like a life cycle, right? Like Is there a part where when you stop playing for the team, you're like, man, I kind of don't like them. These are my exes. Then you go through another cycle where it's like, oh, okay, I can finally watch them on TV a little bit. And then, you come full circle and you find yourself rooting for them with, like, maybe a brown shirt or hat in your house. Where are you in that cycle?
I think I've went through them all, like you mentioned. When I first got released by the team, I definitely had that. I don't want to watch these guys. I don't want anything to do with them. I kind of felt like they didn't give me a fair deal there, considering what all I went through with the expansion team and those kind of things. And then just coming off a playoff year and, broken leg that I didn't get to play in the playoff game and things like that happened. So I was certainly bitter for a year or two. But once my career was over and just started watching games as a fan, I quickly became a fan of the Browns again. And, just very appreciative of the opportunity that I had to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, be a number 1 draft pick, and realize so many dreams that they made possible for me. And, it changed my life. It changed my family's life and the opportunity they gave me. So I'm a huge Browns fan. I pull for them every week. I watch every game. Certainly we've got my Browns gear on, watching the games every Sunday. And, but I definitely went through that cycle where I wasn't a big fan for a while, but now I'm fully on board and behind these guys and would love to see them make a great run in the playoffs.
It's amazing. I was just looking at the stats from that playoff game in 2002, and obviously Kelly Holcomb threw for a ton of yardage in that game. But the running game,
right.
William Green carried 25 times for 30 yards.
Dang. Jeez.
And as a whole, it was 28 carries total by the team for 38 yards. So he wasn't getting any help on the ground. But, Tim, obviously you were hurt, as you said, but that was the last year that the Browns played a playoff game in front of fans, because the only time you've been to the playoffs since then, 2020, and obviously It was COVID. So, fans are not used to this. The Browns haven't played a playoff game in front of fans in over 2 decades. That's crazy. But exciting.
That is crazy. It's very exciting. I can't believe it's just the 3rd time since '99 this team has been to the playoffs, and it's a great thing. I think it's exciting for the city to have a team that's competitive and in the playoffs, and it's an awesome thing to go into the last week of the season and not having to have the pressure and to win this game and you're in, or though you have to have somebody lose or whatever the situation may be. This team has earned its right to be in the playoffs. They can relax and rest their starters and get as healthy and fresh as possible going into that first week of the playoffs. So it's super exciting as fans to have an opportunity like this, have a team like this who's just been resilient all season long. And, I'm excited for Joe Flacco. I'm excited for what he's brought to the city, what he's brought to this football team and energized this team. And I think they have a real chance. I really do. I'm excited about what they can do with this defense in the playoffs. Defense wins games in playoffs. And the way Joe's been playing, he's putting up over 300 yards each game. And it's, when you can do that, you play defense like that, you got a quarterback who's making big plays in the passing game. You always have a chance to win these playoff games. And certainly the Browns have a great opportunity ahead of them.
It feels like a magic carpet ride. It really does. And I on one hand, I don't, like G. Bush keeps saying, hey, man, just relax and enjoy it. But on the other hand, I'm a Browns fan, and I'm waiting for that shoe to fall and hit me in the head. How long can Flacco sustain this incredible play? Is this something that he can take all the way through the playoffs? Because once you get there, as you know, the games get tougher as they go along.
Right. Jay, I'll be honest, he's already played, well for longer than I thought he would. I thought Joe was going to be a guy that could come in and give you maybe a game or two where he could, put up some big numbers, but I thought he's going to kind of be just kind of a game manager type of guy at this stage in his career, where they, and obviously just getting to the team, and starting right away. He didn't really know the players, didn't know the playbook, didn't know the system. I thought they would just kind of ease him into this thing, and they've kind of just opened it wide up for Joe and said, this is your offense, go with it. And he's making plays, pushing the football down the field, making big plays in the passing game. So he's already played much better and exceeded all expectations that I had for him. So I'm fully on board on the Joe Flacco train, man. I think he can run this thing all the way through the playoffs. And I think if the Browns lose a playoff game, I don't think it's going to be because of Joe Flacco and the quarterback play. I think that maybe someone outplays them or whatever, but I think Joe's going to give this football team an opportunity to win games. He's like I said, he's going to make the big plays in the passing game, and hopefully the defense can play like they have all season, and the Browns will certainly have a chance against anyone they go up against.
Very good. Tim, thanks for
Tim.
joining us.
Thanks,
and Happy New Year, man. We'll see you next week. Hopefully by then we'll obviously know our opponent, and we'll dive into the first round playoff game for the Browns. Thanks, Tim.
That sounds good, guys. Thanks. Have a good weekend.
All right.
Jay,
Real quick, I was looking it up. As he was talking about the way he was handled here, I was going to ask him, he was a junior when he left Kentucky. What if he went back for his senior year? Does he ever think about how life could be different? Well, the Browns had the first pick in 2000, too. So,
he just would have prolonged the misery.
But
He was
or
delayed it.
But
If
they
they
might
take
have
a
drafted a different quarterback in '99, and who had the second pick in 2000? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
I got to look it up.
Achilles Smith was the other quarterback.
Bengals.
Yeah.
Was
No, but that was in '99.
99.
Yeah.
Maybe they take Donovan McNabb. Who
He was
knows?
awful.
I don't
Jay,
know.
we talked about something yesterday I'd like to get your opinion on. We talked about how this offense, and I think it was 2 days ago because Bernie was in. Was Bernie in yesterday?
Yeah, it was
Yes.
amazing how long this short week has felt.
My
That was
God, I
yesterday.
know, you're right. We talked about how the offense clearly looks different with Joe Flacco. Because now it's been successful with Joe Flacco, do you think there will be more of a push next year to get Deshaun to conform more to Kevin's offense? Because it is clear that Kevin's offense has looked its best
Yes.
with Baker in 2020 and with Flacco right now. Are we going to push Deshaun into fitting the system? Because we heard a lot from Stefanski saying, hey, I'm going to talk with him and I'm going to put him in situations that he feels comfortable in. That didn't work so well.
Well, okay. I think that there are components to what Deshaun does that work really well that they can continue to do. And I really...
Yeah, I'm not saying scrap all of it.
I'm talking, I think I would take this more the formation route. And I know we talked to Mary Kay about this a couple weeks ago. I think Kevin can take the data to Deshaun and say, look, this is why I want you under center. Not all the time. 30% of the
Hell,
time.
just watch the games.
30% of the time, I want you under center running play action. Take care of the ball. And I think I mentioned this on the show. When they were recruiting Deshaun in Rusty Harden's office in Houston, and Kevin and Deshaun were talking, and Deshaun said, like, give me something to work on. What do you think I need to work on? And Kevin said, ball fakes. Like, that's the first thing Kevin went to.
Wow.
Was, I think you can clean up play action and ball fakes. And this is what I've been trying to allude to for the last few weeks. No one's going to come out and say this. But if you just pay attention and connect the dots and go back to Kevin telling Deshaun that when they were in Rusty's office, Kevin's a big proponent in play action out of coming from under center. And the data backs it up that the yards per play out of that, it's like 7.5 yards a play as opposed to any other way. Like, he gets really good production out of that. And it may not seem like a big deal, but it's just that split second of making the defense believe that there's a possibility for a handoff is all you need to make this thing go. So, and I'm not even saying that Deshaun fought him on that, because I've said it on the show. I talked to Deshaun after the Baltimore game when he broke his shoulder, and he said, like, I've never done this before, and this is different, but, you know, I'm willing to try it. I'm willing to do it. But it's just, it was unfamiliar to him because he was always out of the shotgun in Clemson. He was primarily out of the shotgun in Houston. And there's been, you know, they've wanted to get him under center a little bit more. And people, every time I say this, people say I'm trying to pit Kevin against Deshaun, and that's not it at all. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you, this is something Kevin wants to do. It's something he believes in. It's something Deshaun has never done before, so it's sort of a work in progress. But I think this stretch with Flacco is all the proof that Deshaun should need of this really works.
Right.
Trust me on this. We can still do what you like to do, and you can operate out of the shotgun 70% of the time, 65, 70% of the time, 70, whatever it is. The number is arbitrary. But trust me on this. Let's run this as well, and we're going to have great success that way.
It would actually make the other stuff easier for him.
Probably.
And I think you're right. I don't think for 1 second that Deshaun is stubborn and it's my way or the highway.
No, not at all.
Every player has a
why
favorite way of doing things.
It's what they're used to
Just
doing.
got to adjust. It's an adjustment.
Yeah, it's
for
an
him.
adjustment,
Yeah.
and I love the way you framed it. If he wasn't already in the camp that this can work, he's seen it now.
Yes.
With a 38-year-old guy that isn't mobile. So I would think that Deshaun, who is a smart guy, and he's football smart, I would think he's watching this and saying, wow, I'm kind of excited to try this stuff out. And on the ball fake thing, it's interesting to me that he asked him and Kevin immediately went to that. To me, that tells me that even before they sat down to talk, when Kevin was thinking, what could I do with this guy? He must have had the thought, boy, if I could get him to get under center and work on his play fake, we could do all kinds of great things. Because Flacco, it works so well with Flacco, He's as good at the play fake, and I never thought this first time around.
Brilliant.
He is as good at the play fake as Boomer Esiason was.
Boomer and Steve DeBerg of my
DeBerg
childhood
was another one
were
that was
the guys
great.
that were phenomenal.
So good at it.
And Joe is as well.
And I always wondered why all quarterbacks didn't work on that more, because it is so effective. He had one against the Jets where he just completely relaxed his body. He stood up. I mean, the ball was out of his hand, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it's so effective.
It's used a lot less, I feel like, than when we were younger.
Bernie said
in
that
those
yesterday.
days,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know, I feel like it's not. It's kind of, for some guys, it's a lost art.
Well, it goes in cycles.
Well,
and
because
maybe
think
now it's
about
back.
it, in high school and college, there's so many guys playing from the shotgun so often
Right.
Spread offense.
that
It's
you're
a
just not
lost art.
doing that
Yeah, it's
as
a lost
much.
art.
Right. And
You know.
play action out of the shotgun is not nearly the same as play action.
No.
And
Does-
let's face
yeah.
it, the reality is that Deshaun Watson at this point is way more talented than Joe Flacco.
Oh, for sure.
So if he does these things and adjusts his game, and yes, Kevin Stefanski has to adjust to Deshaun as well. You're not going to ask Deshaun to be under center as much as Joe Flacco.
Correct.
But there's got to be adjustment for both of them towards the middle, and it can work.
And I think that in this case, it's not like you have a Brady and Belichick ego clash.
Right,
I
right.
think these guys have no ego, and I think if there's two guys that I think you can bring together and mesh, maybe Deshaun Watson had one coming here, but he's lost a lot of his ego shine because he's found out that, first of all, from going from Clemson to Houston, that it's not easy. But he has not had the success in Cleveland that he's had in Houston, so I think his ego has come down a bit. I think Stefanski and Watson can come together on this and can make the beautiful play music that they're making right now.
And between suspensions and injuries, it's played a role. I mean, he hasn't really played consistently
No, he
enough
hasn't.
for
Right.
it to work at this point.
Mike.
We got to get to my 5-pack of stats here to get you ready for Sunday's game against Cincinnati. And one last time as the NFL season wraps up, there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed just by placing a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The best part about the app, it's easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, including live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best and easiest way to find popular parlays, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. We were talking about Joe Flacco, and the first stat today is about Mr. King Flaccavelli G. Bush. Do you know he is the only quarterback this season with 4 straight 300-yard multi-touchdown passing games this season? The only quarterback, all 32 teams, all 60 starters,
crazy.
the only one to have 4 straight 300-yard multi-touchdown games. Bull, you tweeted this out, but he has 13 passing touchdowns this season. That's 11th already on the Browns' single-season list, and he's only played 5 games.
That's
Against
bad.
the Jets, on throws of 10 or more air yards, he was 6 of 9 for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. And why is that important? Well, since Joe Flacco took over as the Browns quarterback, they have the 3rd highest explosive pass rate in the entire NFL at 12%. Before Flacco took over, all other quarterbacks before Flacco, they ranked 27th in the NFL. They've jumped from 27th to 3rd with Flacco in explosive pass rate. They've gone from just 5% before, which was 27th, to 3rd at 12%.
Wow.
More than double where they had been.
What were
So-
they with just Watson? Do you know?
No, it lumps it in by week. So I could figure that out later, but for
Yeah,
right
I'm
now,
curious.
it's all before. They were 5%. They're up to 12% now.
I mean, the top line there is absolutely mind-numbing. He's played in 5 games. But, you know, we've got quarterbacks that have played in 16 games. Not many.
Oh, you mean the
some.
second? Are you talking about the second thing or the
No,
first
the
thing?
first thing. He's the
okay.
only quarterback with 4 straight 300-yard. He's only had 5 games to do it. You know, all these other quarterbacks have played many more games, and no one's come close to that.
Tim Graham's a colleague of mine at the Athletic in Buffalo. Tim's actually from Cleveland. I worked with him generations ago at my first job. Really good guy. And he and I are working on a back-and-forth debate piece on Comeback Player of the Year, DeMar Hamlin or Joe Flacco. He's obviously stumping for DeMar, and I'm taking Joe.
Yeah,
Why?
it is silly.
It's fun.
No. It's a
You
fine
missed an
piece.
entire show
But to
yesterday
argue,
with that.
we did
I
this
don't think
argument
there's any
yesterday.
argument for DeMar Hamlin. He
How
hasn't
do you
really
give it
played.
to a guy
I
that's
agree.
played? He's got
Yeah.
2 tackles.
He's played 16 snaps.
And my recommendation was, you know what? Create a new award.
That's what I said.
Call
in
it
the
the DeMar
piece.
Hamlin Courage
I
Award,
said,
and that's
DeMar
it.
Hamlin, I died on the field and had a hole punched in my throat, and here I am.
By the way,
Courage Award.
we don't-
Because that's the
Yes,
line that Tim
it's-
used in the story.
It's ridiculous. By the way, we don't want to go down this road again because it was a big argument yesterday. but we actually Jay argued Baker, and I argued Matthew Stafford over both.
Baker
over
is
Flacco.
We're not going down the
the odds
Not
on
going down the road.
No, we don't got to go down that road. But I do want to hear Jason's pick. It was a hot topic yesterday. The odds-on favorite are DeMar Hamlin, overwhelming number 1.
Yeah.
Then Flacco, and then Baker. And Flacco and Baker are pretty close. And then the fourth pick, who was way down, was Matthew Stafford.
I would take Baker.
You would take Baker?
I'd take Baker over
Okay.
Stafford. But the whole reason I brought that up was because I was looking at 300-yard games, and I don't have it in front of me now, but I think C.J. Stroud has 7 300-yard games this year, I think.
There haven't been a lot this year.
But basically, Joe has one less than Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes has, what's Joe have, 4?
Yeah.
4.
So then I think Patrick has 5. I think it is.
That's crazy.
And Sam Howell has a bunch of 300-yard games.
Well, they've been down big in a lot of games.
I'm trying to
and
figure
throwing.
out why other people are astonished by this. I don't know why. When you look at Joe Flacco, I don't think we put enough respect on his game.
Gee, he's mostly been bad for the last decade.
But this shows you.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to do with all about you being bad. It's about the situation you're put in.
Well, hell,
it's
what,
about
what,
the
what
environment.
year did he win the Super Bowl?
2011 was the season.
Yeah,
It was
I mean,
2012 Super
you
Bowl.
It
can't-
wasn't bad that year. That goes.
Well, that's
I mean,
more
it's a
than
little
10
more
years
than a
ago.
decade ago.
Hey,
But he had seasons after his Super Bowl year that were fine.
2014 was his last really good year.
It was a really good year.
He's
14.
been nothing since then, pretty
Yeah,
much.
well, he.
That goes.
I
Of
thought
course
last-
it's surprising.
No.
Well, last year he threw for 300 yards in the first 2 or
mean,
3
but
games
the-
for the
I
Jets.
I
saw
know,
him
and
doing
then
it
he
against the
and
Browns.
then quickly got benched
because he's in the third game
because the
against idiots.
Jets don't know what the hell they have.
Jay, come on.
Clearly,
he has
they
not
don't.
played that well the last couple
Bull,
years.
Bull, his
Yeah.
agent called the Jets after Aaron Rodgers got hurt, and they said, no, we're good.
Agreed, the Jets are clueless, but it's
Okay.
still.
But 30
Flacco's
other
not
teams
been
also
good.
didn't call it either.
But that just you can't base what 30 other teams do. 30 other teams ain't gonna win the Super Bowl either. It's about what you do and put them in a position.
No, but you said it's not. We shouldn't be surprised.
You
Of course,
shouldn't.
it's surprising.
You shouldn't. What?
Come on.
Bro, look, he has an elite arm. He's seen every defense possible. He's played in big-time games. He has a wealth of knowledge. He is not washed up. He's fresh. Why would you not believe that a guy with
Because
those
he hasn't done it for
I'm
a
kind of
decade.
between you guys.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have predicted this, but I mean, hell, he threw for 300 yards his first couple of games last year and got benched
Yeah.
after the third game.
I mean, the reality is that none of us are as smart as NFL executives.
That's not true.
That ain't true.
Well,
not
for the
true at
most
all.
part. And the entire NFL
It's
didn't call
completely
him back.
absurd.
There's some idiots
I'll
walking
agree
around
with
here.
you, Mike. None of
Out
us
of
are
your
as
mind.
smart as
There's
NFL
some people
executives.
that don't have no clue.
Are
I'm
you
just
just
saying,
kidding
people
me,
who
Mike?
work in this industry who are paid very high salaries to evaluate talent.
And they get it wrong all the time.
And I'm not
and
saying
so
they're
do we.
perfect.
Like, we get it wrong
Yeah,
all
I'm
the
not
time.
saying
Of course
they're
we
perfect, but they
do.
decided
Everybody
Joe
gets
Flacco
it wrong.
wasn't
Scouting
good.
It's not
talent is not
surprising.
science.
I mean, come on.
Nah,
I'm not
It's
going
very
to
surprising. It's very
Come on.
surprising.
I'm just saying.
Gee, the reason it's surprising is that this is the best story in sports. If you weren't surprised by it, it wouldn't be the best story in
Yeah,
sports.
exactly.
The fact that it's the best story in sports comes from the fact, as you alluded to beautifully yesterday, he came back from, I won't say the couch because we don't know he's not on the couch.
Did you
He
see-
came back from his bedroom. It was in his house, chilling, and now he's doing it. All right, let's get to the second stat, though, because we got a couple more to get to. How about Myles Garrett? Here's the entire list of players with 14 or more sacks in 2021, 2022, and 2023. Myles Garrett. That's it. No one else. Just Myles Garrett. Against the Jets, he had 6 pressures in less than 2.5 seconds, which brings his total on the season of quick pressures under 2.5 seconds, to 54. That's second in the NFL behind Micah Parsons. And we don't like PFF, but I did think this was interesting.
I like PFF.
He is, maybe it's not the same as it used to be.
Bull
I still like
likes it.
PFF.
They're dead
I-
to me.
I should lie. But he's on pace to break 4 single-season PFF records for edge rushers. Overall grade, pass rush grade, pass rush win rate, and true pass rush win rate, which is it takes out screens, it takes out pass plays that aren't – there's no ability to get a pass rush. So essentially, he is on pace for the single greatest edge rusher season in PFF metrics. So the traditional stats may not back it up, but you look at the analytics, it's Myles and it's everybody else.
But he doesn't have sacks, McNuggets. Micah Parsons, I saw him play for Dallas, and Micah Parsons, shut up. Myles Garrett been nicer than Micah Parsons. He gets to the quarterback in 0.5 seconds.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
Now, let's do a dose of reality. Even though I 100% think Myles Garrett should be the defensive MVP. With 100% certainty, I could say that if the roles were reversed and Myles Garrett had the sacks and T.J. Watt or Michael Parsons had the better analytics, then all the Browns fans screaming for Myles Garrett would be screaming the opposite.
You use the number that fits your narrative.
Yes.
Yeah,
However,
right
that doesn't change my opinion
No.
that Myles Garrett is clearly the best defensive player.
Ben Baby was on earlier this week, and he told us about a stat that ESPN sort of created that is it's a combo stat for edge rushers. And it equates a lot. It'd be probably the equivalent to a QBR. It adds a lot of different measurables in. And he said when you look at that stat, and it's a compilation of all the things that you want the edge rusher to do, it's Myles Garrett and then everybody else, and there's a huge gap between them. And I believe that. I do. And I think he is going to be the defensive player of the year.
Yeah, I think it's long overdue. He should have probably won. Although he has had seasons in the past where he's tailed off. We've talked about that.
Right.
I think motivation has a lot to do with it. We've talked about that. That you have nothing left to play for.
When you're 5-10.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get up. So to me, he's the defensive player. I've enjoyed watching him every week. I enjoy getting to know him a little bit. He's a great guy, fascinating to talk to. All of his different interests. Now minority owner in the Cavs. And
you threw that in there as quick. I like that.
Well, no, it was just like
there
was a time not long ago when I had serious concerns about how much longer Myles was going to be in Cleveland, and those are gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
By the way, we're giving out flowers, and I don't want to go too far off the track, but I thought David Njoku had a soundbite yesterday that was the biggest single example of the maturation of any player that I've covered closely and looked at closely. The soundbite, I'll paraphrase it. He said, every year of my career, I've gone into it and through the season, all I thought about was my stats. I wanted so many catches and so many touchdowns and so many yards. And this year, I divorced myself from that idea. I said, I don't care about stats. I want to be the best I can be to help my team, and I'm going to the Pro Bowl. And I thought that was a full circle maturation because, remember, there was a time not long ago he was a healthy scratch.
Yeah.
And it was imminent that he was out of town. And I really looked at that soundbite in that moment, and I said, he has arrived physically and mentally.
He is a tremendous story of a guy who's really sort of come out of his shell this year in terms of what he says in the media really doesn't count. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But in terms of his play on the field. But you can sort of gauge it just in terms of where he's at. And he used to never want to talk, never used to say anything. And now he's a machine. He's a quote machine.
Yeah.
He's very insightful and he's very happy. And that wasn't always the case here. There was multiple trade requests. They brought in Austin Hooper and they drafted Harrison Bryant. And he's the last one standing. Well, I guess Bryant's still here.
Well, if the John Dorsey regime had lasted any longer, he wouldn't be here. He'd be gone.
That's probably true.
Jimmy Donovan told me that yesterday. He said they had come to the decision he's out.
And, and David has said early on that his relationship with Kevin was rocky at first. And I've had other people tell me, Kevin did a tremendous job of getting David to buy back in and get him back in the boat and pick up the oars again and start rowing because he was out. And when they drafted him, he was a super athletic young kid who was just an athlete, and he's really become a football player.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that his relationship with Kevin has come full circle. Did you guys see the clip where he was mic'd up for the game when Hopkins got hurt, and he was politicking to Kevin to kick? And what blew me away more than anything was he'd gone up to Stefanski 4 or 5 different times and said, come on, I can do this. Yeah. He wasn't calling him coach. He was calling him Kev. Mm-hmm. He's like, Kev, I can make this. I can make this. First of all, it's a hilarious clip. We should find it and play it. But I was like, wow, he's calling him Kev.
Yeah.
Can you imagine one of the Patriots? I don't know. Maybe they do. Calling Belichick Bill? I don't think it goes down that way, but I like it.
We've often on this show and other media members have been critical of Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski at times for being too patient with some players. Like, get rid of Anthony Schwartz, get rid of this guy.
Right.
But the reality is, it's good to be patient in most cases. They weren't with Cade York, which worked out. But generally, if you draft a guy, you believe in him. If you give up on him too quick, what does that say about you?
Well, look, they did give up on Baker. And we're talking about him as the comeback player of the year.
They didn't draft Baker.
No, I know, but giving up on a player in general, someone that's in your system that you decide we got to keep or we got to let go, he's up for comeback player of the year.
I hear you.
So patience
shouldn't win.
I agree with you, and in 99% of the cases, that's right.
Yeah.
Just stay the course. Give them time to develop. It took Njoku a long time, but it's been worth the wait for sure.
It has.
Okay. All right, number 3 comes from Ben Baldwin, a.k.a. the Computer Cowboy on Twitter.
Oh, I like that guy.
He's a good follower.
He's really good. Yeah. So don't ask necessarily context. I just have this. I don't know how he came up with this, but series conversion rate, which is essentially how often do teams turn a 1st and 10 situation into another set of downs. From the defensive standpoint, the further the minus, the better. The Browns have a minus 11.4 series conversion rate, better than the league average. So they are 10% better at forcing teams to not turn a 1st and 10 into something else.
Don't ask me how you compute it. Into a first down, you mean?
Into a first down, yeah. Don't ask me how it's computed. I don't know. But when I see a graphic that has the 2023 Browns as number 1 all time, with the 2000 Ravens as number 2, the 2008 Ravens as number 3, and the 2002 Buccaneers as number 4, and the Browns are better than those 3 defenses, that means something.
Yeah. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the year about how the defense was getting off the field and the Browns were running like 60 more snaps?
60 more snaps, yep.
Basically, the Browns were keeping opposing defenses out on the field an extra full game because their defense was so good at getting off the field.
Man,
that's nuts. And those are all-time great defenses. And I'm sure
that's what I'm saying. I don't know
if that
exactly
stat had gone back to 1985, the 85 Bears would be in there.
It goes back
too.
to 96. So it's up to 9. And once again, I don't know how we.
But those defenses are like all-time great defenses.
Some of the best defenses ever, and the Browns, at least in this series conversion rate above league average, better than those 3.
Stunning.
There's a lot of teams that have this philosophy of, you know what, we're going to give up some yards here or there, and we're just going to bend but don't break, holding us some field goals. And it's the most infuriating thing to be a defensive player, and they call a defense that you know is going to give up 4 yards, but they're playing for down the line. It's the Browns. You know what they do? The reason they're that good is because they're more aggressive than everybody.
Get them off the field.
They are aggressive, and then when you think they're going to let up, they're more aggressive. So, that's the thing that I hold on to is I like a coordinator that's not going to watch somebody walk the ball down the field or play cover 3. And I remember times watching the Browns give up 5 to 7 yards a pop. Just 7, 5, check down. You're like, what? No. I love the fact the Browns play this aggressively.
Yeah, get them off. 3 plays.
Number 4.
One question, Mike, before you go on. Do you know this stat? Did I see a stat last week that said the Browns lead the NFL in takeaways?
I think they're 3rd or 4th.
I think they're 3rd. I could double check.
You're right.
One sec.
They were.
That shocked me because they got off to a slow start.
It was 27 take. I saw the stat.
Yeah, 27, and I thought it said they were 1st in the NFL.
Yeah, and
I was like, wow, man, did they make up that ground fast?
Yeah.
They have 27. Baltimore is 29. So they're 2
Baltimore
behind.
Probably
Baltimore
passed them last week. Because I saw what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think at the time they were 1st because I remember seeing they put it on the graphic.
I think it was probably after they had already played the Jets before the Ravens had played.
It probably was.
That's probably what it was.
But to me, that's stunning because they were not taking it away in the first 4 or 5 games. They did not do it.
Major turn. Okay, number 4. How about some unsung defensive heroes? We talked about Ronnie Hickman earlier. Mm-hmm. Well, last week against the Jets, he was the highest graded PFF safety in the league. He had a 93 grade. Since week 14, when he started playing more regular snaps after Grant Delpit's gone out, he has an 84.7 PFF grade. That ranks 5th out of 95 qualified safeties. And with his snaps against the Jets, he officially enters the overall safety category. He's the 4th highest PFF graded safety in all of football this year, which is kind of absurd. Alex Wright, Alex Wright, 3 straight games with a sack. He has 7 QB pressures in those 3 games. He's up to 19 on the season. He only had 12 all of last year. He has 7 in the last 3 games. 2 guys to watch on Sunday who will definitely play. Alex Wright, Ronnie Hickman, playing at a phenomenal level. Hopefully that continues for the Browns.
And Mike, you say he only had 12 last year and he has 19 this year. My guess,
how many snaps?
Obviously could be wrong, is he took a lot more snaps last year.
I would have guessed that too.
He missed a few games, but I can tell you.
But he was a bigger part of the defense last year.
Nobody
I mean, this year he's relegated to second team.
Yeah. But yes, I mean both those guys.
But the Hickman stat, you said 4th rated safety.
Yeah, he's played 297 snaps now, which once you break 250, you enter the category of all safeties. Anything below that. Yeah. But 4th highest graded safety.
PFF's not dead to you right now.
Well, I'm kind of loving PFF right now.
Looking at that number.
Yeah, I mean, he's been really impressive. He's a guy that right now is passing the PFF test and the eye test.
You're right. Yeah, and when you get both of those.
By the way, I just looked it up. Alex Wright played 200 more snaps than he has this season. And
that's what I figured. So the fact that
7 more pressures,
he's got more pressures, playing 200 less snaps.
Yeah, that's a couple of complete games.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's nuts.
Yeah, he's been really coming on.
And the last one before we read some comments on G's outfit, because the chat, G, is loving the fit. But a couple records that Stefanski has a chance to eclipse this week. He could become the first Browns coach, or he is the first Browns coach, to lead the team to multiple playoff berths since Marty Schottenheimer. He joins Paul Brown as the only head coach in franchise history with multiple 11-win regular seasons.
Wow.
The Browns' longest win streak since returning to Cleveland in '99, 4 games. They've done it 4 times. It's happened 3 times under Stefanski. And if they win this Sunday, it'll be 5, setting a new record. He's also looking to become the second
Earl gets
coach
all
ever.
the flowers in the world if they win Sunday.
That's true.
Yes.
Because he sat in G's chair one day when he was out and said with all the confidence of G. Bush and all the Kool-Aid
Flacco
of
for
G.
Flacco,
Bush
baby.
that they were going to go 5-0.
And we laughed at
ridiculed
him.
We're lockstep. What do you mean? He sat in his chair, then he said what he was supposed to.
He gets partial credit for that.
I get a little I side bet on him.
I had said when he said that G. Bush must have spilled some of that Kool-Aid in that chair.
I got 10 of my
By the way,
man.
I feel like G kind of looks a little like Sylvester Stallone in Rocky.
No, that wasn't it.
No. Wait, didn't Rerun wear the Kangol, the leather Kangol?
Yeah, but Rerun ain't never looked like this.
Yeah, Rerun.
Got to say
he can dance though. Rerun.
Yeah,
Rerun
got
could
his thing.
dance.
My arms don't lift up that.
By the way,
more.
95% of our audience right now is saying, "Who in the hell is Rerun?"
Well, we got some G.
true.
We're gonna roast G a
got-
little bit
they got
here.
some good
We got
ones.
first super chats, then we'll get into some other comments. But Reggie Sims says, "Let's go." Damian Frederick says, "G. Bush like he sorry for 2004."
Oh, that's
Wow.
Ruben Studdard. He put it in subtitles. That was dope.
Dog, you a little pitchy. You a little
Jonathan
pitchy. That's
Mann.
gonna be a no for me, dog.
Jonathan Mann said, "G looking like he's collecting the VIG this week."
That's what I'm saying. Stallone. That's what he
Winvet
did.
Ohio said, "Did G. Bush just shoot a Missy Elliott video?"
Oh, I can't stand the rain.
We have 2 non-G. Bush super chats, then we'll get to the rest of the roast. But Kevin Robinson says, "I'm excited to watch Siaka Ika closely see what we have in the rookie defensive tackle."
Yeah.
And Parajut Sandhu says, "Man, do I miss watching football live, guys. I'm live from India right now. We'll be
Shout
back
out
on
to
Monday.
you.
Go Brownies." Shout out to our viewers all across the world, including you in India. Couple more roast, G. Ghost of Flea said, "G would start a new Jack swing group."
Oh, listen, what you mean? Shout out Teddy Riley, New Jack Swing. I'm in all the movies in the '80s. King of New York.
Corey McLaughlin says, "G got a rub-on cologne with that hat."
No, actually, to be truthful,
Chat can be so
actually
heartless.
on some really crazy stuff. Like I had to go get gas, and I spilled gas on myself, and I'm like, bro, like, am I getting high over here? Like, I spilled some gas on my we gotta get.
Evan 419 says, "G went over the salary cap for this fit."
Hey, stop that! You dry snitching. My wife has not seen none of this.
Mark
Let
Key
it go.
says, "G's outfit came from Ashley's Furniture."
Hey, does that hat recline? Bro, does that hat recline?
This boy transforms into a futon.
Freddie B.
Ashley Furniture.
Freddie B says, "G Bush looks like he'll take your lunch money, then help you with your math homework."
Y'all cold.
Evan also says, "G got a mini lint roller in his pocket right now."
Yes, no doubt.
No, just duct tape. I put on there.
Roberto El Presidente says, "All G Bush needs is a 4-finger ring."
Oh, listen, I thought about getting one of them. No lie, about like 4 days ago, but I'm like, I can't use this just as a prop. This is way too expensive for a prop.
Couple
thought about
more.
it.
Colin Laridish says, "I think G Bush and Eazy-E about to drop an album." Creative Juice says, "G reminds me of Anthony Adams stepping out of his Cadillac to play hoop with gators on."
Sam Adams.
Vernal Jackson says, "Heavy G and the boys."
You're right. Like, you know what? Men at large. Shout out to them.
Squid Vet Ohio says, "G drove to work in a Lincoln."
With fuzzy
And
dice.
lastly, all right, we have 2 more.
A
G
1970s
says,
Lincoln.
Yeah. Do for the
Roberto
quarter.
El Presidente says, "G Bush still got the price tag on his jacket and hat. He headed to Mr. Albert's to return it post today's show."
Hey, listen, I'm like, listen, my sides was kind of tight, dog. Can I get this back? I come back in the new red leather.
Gleazy Baby 43 says, regarding the series conversion stat, you mentioned the Ravens and Bucks won Super Bowl those years. Now let's go enjoy a brownies. And Ant, you said there's one more?
Yeah, somebody said G looks like he's out of Build-N-Uncle.
Builder.
I missed who said it.
And I might have leather open-toe sandals, too. Right?
Hey, real quick, for 3 minutes before we go over to WKYC for brand new Never Before Seen content. Jay, you put in the group chat yesterday the Browns, you hope they don't regret not signing Dalvin Cook. He went to the Ravens. Is that your worst-case nightmare scenario for Dalvin Cook?
Yeah, it was. We talked about, reasons to sign him.
Yeah.
And I thought that, A, the Jets castaways have been pretty good for the Browns this year. B, the Jets offensive line is trash. He wasn't the lead runner there. Let's bring him in for a one-game audition, save the hits on our running backs, and keep him from going to the Chiefs or the Ravens, where we might have to stop him in the playoffs. And now
I got no concern. I think he's washed. As bad as their offensive line is, Breece Hall's been really good. Brown's offensive line's not been good run blocking. If you look at his stats when runs are blocked perfectly, he's one of the worst running backs in the league. He was already in decline last year.
Yeah, so was
Ravens,
Flacco.
Just because one guy,
we use
the Ravens have signed 5 veteran running backs the last 2 years. They've all sucked.
Bull, I need you and Jason to come up with a rebuttal because people are going to be smacking y'all with that forever. Like, it's the one thing we got. It's like y'all's yard per carry.
Yeah.
But we did it with Flacco.
Right.
Anybody.
As if that means everybody.
Everybody's good now.
Yeah.
Everybody's good now.
Jay, where are you on that? Did you think they should at least bring
I don't
him in
think
for the
he's got
game?
anything left, but I mean the Flacco thing is stuck in the back of my head. It is.
And not only for you, you should also use Kareem Hunt, who was riding on 3 wheels
He still
right now.
is.
Oh, sure he is. Come on.
If he had 4, he'd be the lead back. The running backs suck.
How many touchdowns does he have?
He gets the ball at the 2-yard line.
Take 9 Nobody else could get it in from the 2.
Listen, he has filled a role. He's filled a role admirably. Yeah. Let's not pretend this is
He's the
Kareem
world's
Hunt.
prettiest big wheel.
Let's not pretend this is Kareem Hunt from 4 and 5 and 6
I'm
years
not.
ago.
I'm
That's
not.
the only point I was ever trying
Where
to
would
make.
they be without him, though? 9 touchdowns off the board. How many games?
That's not true. That's
Why not?
not true.
Why not?
Know that.
Why
Other
not?
guys could have
Other
scored the
guys would have had those
touchdowns.
same opportunities.
That's his role.
Our red zone offense
Where would Ohio State have been in 2002 without Lydell Ross? Because they wouldn't give Maurice Clarett the ball at the goal line. They made Lydell Ross do the carries. Like,
I'm just saying, he's been a very been a
has
key
filled-
contributor
he has
to this
filled
team.
a
He's
role
filled an
admirably.
Key
role.
contributor.
I have not heard Lydell Ross's name resurrected.
I know that. Where the hell did that
couldn't
come
even
from?
say nothing no
I
more.
covered Ohio State back then.
No, I know, but when you said it, I'm like,
And remember he had them
yeah.
in his freshman year. He had them little 1,100 yards. He was going
we
to be
thought
the
he
night.
was going to
second.
be
5-second
trophy winner.
No Lydell
See you on
Ross.
Channel
Channel
3.
Peace. Yeah, he thought he was the truth.